You're listening to the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd. Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo,
to get
join
in on
the
the
herd.
fun. The party doesn't stop when we go off the air all week long. The Sports Fix social media sites are your one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports. Jump over to Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, and become a fan today because we love fans and they create some of the best sports talk in town, Daddy. You'll enjoy talking to your fellow Cleveland sports fans on the Sports Fix fan page. And if Twitter's your thing, well, you know how we do it. Tweet with us at the Sports Fix CLE. It's that simple. Twitter.com/TheSportsFixCLE, baby. Chat live with the crew during all your favorite Cleveland sports events, tickets and contests and trivia and so much more. Get with us today, the Sports Fix on social media. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at the Sports Fix CLE. Join the Sports Fix on Facebook and Twitter today.
Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
You got that right, baby. We are live on the air. Another week kicking off here on the Sports Fix. Welcome in each and every one of you live. It's noon, baby, across the Sports Fix radio network. Welcome in no matter where, when, why, and how you're listening to the Sports Fix. Whether you're listening to us on TuneIn and the TuneIn radio application, perhaps you're listening live on the home base, baby, where it all happens on the sportsfix.net. You're listening maybe on Spreaker and Mixler and their live mobile applications as well. Or perhaps you listen 24 hours a day around the world in digital delay on iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio network. Perhaps you listen on Spreaker and on TuneIn, or excuse me, on the digital delay platforms such as Stitcher Radio. I'm all over the place, my man. We are hot and heavy. I got messages coming in across 3 different platforms here this morning. I am ready to kick off the week. I hope you are too. No matter how you're enjoying the show, welcome in, you guys. I am your host, the conductor of the madness, the big daddy on the microphone, J-Rock. Jerry Myers with you here for the duration each and every weekday at noon. Thank you guys again for allowing me into your home, your workspace, however you're enjoying the show, guys. Let's rock and roll. A whole lot to get into. And you know what? Let's get the formalities out of the way right away. As I always say, not just my show, your show, baby. And I'll tell you what, phone lines are going to be kind of busy in the middle parts of the show. We've got John McMullen from the Sports Network. As always, he's here on Monday. Not only going to be with us here talking about the ins and outs of the NFL preseason as we roll now halfway point for a lot of teams towards the beginning of the season, but preview time tonight, Monday Night Football, under the bright lights, the Browns and the Skins. We'll talk about all of that with my man John McMullen. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan with us here as always on Mondays and Wednesdays. Today we'll talk a little Tribe, we'll talk a little Browns, but we're also going to focus on the Ohio State Buckeyes with Dan, as we are T-minus less than 2 weeks now from this past weekend before the Buckeyes kick things off. Preseason, I always get a kick out of preseason polls for college football. I mean, even in the NFL, a preseason ranking would be better because at least somebody played something, but in college football, it's just ridiculous. I always get a kick out of that because they use that to justify the early season rankings, and I always think it's funny. I'm like, how are teams trying to live up to people's guesses? This is not, it's not like you based it off of science here, so that's always something. But we'll talk about all of that and what the Buckeyes are doing, how things are looking here heading into it. Dan Wismar and I are going to talk some Buckeyes and NCAA, and we're going to dive a little bit. We talked about it, previewed it a bit last week, into some of the 4 pending changes here coming above the NCAA and actually above and beyond the NCAA, really changing the scope of things in the future here as the era of getting paid to play college football and college sports. It's not coming, it's here. So we're going to talk about all of that with Dan Wismar. Indians take 2 out of 3. Hey, baby, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, especially against Baltimore. We'll talk about all of that. The Cavaliers signed Shawn Marion. They caught the War Machine. We got a ton of things going on, baby. So as I said, don't just listen. Join me. Talk to me about it. Pick up the phone. Give us a call. 216-539-7535 is the number to call. 216-539-7535. If you can't get to the phones, or if you're somewhere that you can't call, it's all good. Hit us up on Facebook and Twitter and email. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the SportsFix, CLE, all one word. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. And real quick, before we get into the meat and things and get into rolling, I want to thank those of you guys. I saw a ton of you listeners of the show who came up and found me over the weekend. Of course, I had the big show out in Avon and AmRev Wrestling, which real quick, I want to thank the Crushers and those guys for hosting it. It was a great event. It was packed. There was, I mean, at least, I don't know. I don't have actual numbers, but there was a huge crowd there. Easily one of the better wrestling crowds of the year here in Northeast Ohio, and they were incredibly enthusiastic, and the Crushers people were too. I'm excited. If you're into baseball and if you like wrestling, if you're one of those people that came out, a lot of you asked me when will we be doing this again. I'll tell you what, the Crushers loved it. And I would not be surprised if next season, not only is there a lot more stuff going on there with them, some more stuff like what we did this weekend, but the entire Frontier League was pretty impressed with what we put on and what we did over the weekend. So it may turn out to be, hopefully, perhaps even bigger. But there's a lot more to come. But I want to thank you guys. I got to meet a ton of you guys, and I love that. I love when guys come up to me. They're like, man, hey, I've been watching you wrestle for this many years. And I listened to the Sports Fix. I used to, the wrestling thing was for the longest thing what I did, and now I get even more giddy when they throw that part in, and I love listening to the Sports Fix. I'm like, all right. So hey, you guys, thanks for coming out, and it was my anniversary, man. 15 full years in the books. We've now hit the second 15, I guess you'd say. Year 16 started, but some great fun, man. Kids flipping off and in and out of dugouts and everything. It was a good time had by all. So thanks to you guys for coming out and those guys for having us. It was a really good time, and I'll tell you guys as soon as I know when some more stuff is going down. But it was a good time, man. So thanks you guys for coming out and supporting it and coming and finding me and all of that. And as I said, man, I love it when I hear from you guys, whether it's at an event that I'm at, whether it's out on location, whether it's live on the phones, whether it's on the social media after you listen to the show. I love it, you guys. So always keep interacting with the show. All right, let's dive into the show. Speaking of that, Cavaliers, real quick, signed Shawn Marion. A lot of us we've talked about that before. Another one committed. I'll tell you what, Terry Pluto actually did a good breakdown in the Plain Dealer about kind of how the path led to Shawn Marion ending up with the Cavs when he did have some other options. But, it's just, I guess, kind of like the way you look at just the way things went for the Cavaliers, because you can talk about having a plan and plans. Yeah, that's great. And then you can talk about what really happened, which is the way things just fortuitously fell together for the Cavaliers. Now, their plan had them in position to take advantage of it, which is the good part of that. But, I don't necessarily know that this is the way the plan was written, but they're surely not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. But the way it fell through, and it just kind of made the Cavs Shawn Marion's most attractive option, even with them only being able to offer him the minimum salary. I think it's $1.4 million, and that's it. I see Bruce in the chat room, almost to the Pacers, but then they decided, because if they signed him, they would have had to go into luxury tax. They had, I believe it was it was definitely larger. I can't remember if it was significantly larger, but regardless, they decided that they were not. It was like $5 million that they could have offered, I believe. But if they did, it would have put them in luxury tax, where you're paying the dollar for dollar taxes with the new CBA, and a lot of teams work on avoiding that. Now they'll go for it if there's a believed to be a ring at the end of it, a championship dangling there. Then teams will go into the tax and they'll spend to go for it. But once George went out, they figured, we're really up against it here now with the way this offseason has unfolded for them. So why go into the tax? So that kind of took a major chip off the table right there, and looking around, and then you see the way the Parsons deal went down, and just very quickly, all of a sudden, Cleveland became an attractive option even though the money was less, because there really wasn't bigger money anywhere that he had a chance to win. So as I was joking over the weekend, I said, hey, man, at least one of these guys they brought in is going to play some defense, because while it's all fun and it's all like, hey, yeah, all right, Kyrie and Love, and yeah, man, all right, running and gunning, somebody's got to stop the other team from scoring. I know LeBron doesn't mind playing defense, and Tristan Thompson likes to play defense, but the Cavaliers do have, I don't know, 1 or 2 or 7 or 8 players that are a little bit allergic to defense, perhaps would be a good term to use. So I don't mind it. Again, it's an older player, but you got to keep in mind, and the one thing that I think of with that is yeah, you age the roster around the exteriors, but your core is still in the prime. You've got it balanced with pretty much the same number of older and younger, and I get that. The trick for the Cavs over the next few seasons is going to be rotating those pieces like these guys in and out, because you can't stick with the pat hand, because each year these various guys, whether it's Mike Miller, Ray Allen, Shawn Marion, James Jones, whatever, they get a year older, things change. So that's what Miami just went through. That's what a team does when you've got your core and then you're mixing and matching the veterans that want to go for the ring. You got to get the right guys in the right year to make it work. So we'll see. This is shot number 1, but I'm not. Some people were actually negative on Marion. I'm not one of those guys. I do believe that he's still obviously on the downside, but on the upper part of it, where I believe he can still be when I say significant contributor, I mean that as in significantly contributing in the role they need him to, not necessarily that he's a core piece. I don't want people to misinterpret what I'm saying, but I think he's a good signing. I think I saw Terry Pluto said the second most important signing after LeBron, and you know what? I'd be hard pressed to argue that. I mean, obviously you can't officially talk about Kevin Love for another 6 days now until that can go in the books, but I would agree with that. I do believe you had to get a guy to come in and play some defense here. As I said, I'm joking, but I'm not joking about the defensive makeup of this team. So, but Marion comes in, he's going to get the minimum what the Cavs can offer him. It's $1.4 million. And then Ray Allen, by the way, that's still out there as well. I think they can offer him the same, and we'll see if he decides to come back. But this is the makeup of the team here as it goes. But I like this. We talked about Marion a few weeks back when he first came in to visit. And by the way, I love the way the recruiting visit went. I come in, I talk to the general manager, and then I hang out with the coach for a couple hours. Oh, and then the last thing is the phone rings and it's LeBron, and it's like, hey man, you might want to come and have some fun with us here this year. Okay, you know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and play with the Cavs. But I'll tell you what, man, it's the best recruiting tool that a general manager can have. And it's the same thing for Cleveland as it was for Miami and as it would be for anywhere else, man. That's the one benefit of that. And but I'm telling you, it only appeals to there's a certain group of player that won't bring here. And I think we've seen that before, and we've seen it in Miami too. Other than the initial grouping of the core, you don't get that big other guy to come join in, because there's egos and there's all of that stuff. There's all kinds of things in the mix there. But for this situation, it worked to put it over the top. And I'm telling you, I do agree. I agree with Terry Pluto absolutely with what he said. It was a key signing. He brings some veteran presence. I mean, he's done a good job in Dallas the last few years. And again, on the downside, but on the still quite effective side of it. So I think it's a good piece for the Cavaliers there. And as we said, this team just about constructed. Man, I will say that I'm excited to get in towards training camp and get the NBA season. Not just, obviously it's focused here on Cleveland and the Cavs for us, but in general, we talk about just the shakeup in the NBA, especially the Eastern Conference. And really, you just it was like taking the sands of the hourglass and just turning that thing upside down, because with the signings and LeBron and Paul George going down, just the whole conference flipped. What was up is now down, and vice versa. So it'd be interesting to see once these teams start working together and practicing together, and we start seeing some ball and seeing things kick off. But anyway, so that's the latest with the Cavs, and we'll talk some more later on in the week as that goes. And as you guys want to call in, pick up the phone and give us a call. We're going to get ready to take a break, but talking some Indians baseball. But we'll set it up here. We'll take a break. We'll come back in 216-539-7.